Hey, and welcome to Game Talk. I'm your host, Ahmed Mian. Today I'm joined by Connor
Hey guys.
and Mike.
Hello.
And before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to inform everyone that we are doing something a little different for our YouTube video today. We've actually got a video feed of Connor as he builds his new PC. So no pressure, Connor. Don't.
Oh God.
And we've got Connor's cat screeching in the background too.
I don't like change. So I'll put my specs for anybody who's curious in the description. I'm not gonna waste any time on the podcast going over that because I think Mike has some stuff he really wants to talk about. But I am doing this blind. I haven't read instructions for anything yet, so it might take me a minute. I haven't built a PC in
So
8 years.
Usually we pair the podcast with like gameplay. So I thought this is a little different, but still game related. So why not? But yeah, Mike, so Cyberpunk 2077, after what seems like years of anticipation, is finally out. And I feel like there's quite a bit of controversy surrounding this game,
Yeah.
Like if you look at the PC reviews, it seems like one of the best games of the year, easily. It seems like a genre-defining title, right? But that's only on a high-end PC, right? The console release of this game was an
PC.
abject failure. And
yeah, they haven't released next-gen consoles yet, which is probably going to be saving grace. But last-gen consoles, kind of a disaster.
To the extent that CD Projekt Red actually issued like an apology, and said that they would be willing to facilitate refunds if you're on PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah, I saw some footage of it even on a high-end PC, and it's not running super great if you're not on Well, Mike, you said it was running well for you. I think it may just be poorly optimized ray tracing or something, because these people weren't on 3000 series cards, and we're having...
Ray tracing does kill frames a lot.
Yeah, but that's just normal.
If you just use DLSS, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep muting myself and unmuting myself. So
no, you're
plastic crinkle.
Good.
But the Cyberpunk fell into that classic cross-gen thing where you release a game on 2 generations of consoles, and you end up having a disaster on last-gen consoles. Which
a lot of companies are releasing on 2 generations of consoles. Right, but I think Cyberpunk's a special case, right? This game was not ready to go yet. I know they've delayed it several times. It was ready on PC, presumably, right? But it's literally on PS4 and Xbox One. Think back to the Xbox One. Base Xbox One runs this game. Can you imagine the sacrifices and compromises that had to be made to get that thing running there? And these games, I've seen compilation upon compilation of just game-breaking bugs, and I think that's such a shame. I wish so much. Personally, I'm going to be waiting until next year to play this game when it's A, released on next-gen consoles, and B, the bugs are mostly ironed out. But for people who are anticipating this game for the longest time, it just sucks, because ideally, I would want them to delay the game again, but I feel like at this point they've done that so much, they literally can't, even though I feel like it needed a delay for the most popular versions of the game to get the attention they needed.
Yeah.
One versions of the game is what's going to generate CD Projekt the most money, and it seems like those versions got the least amount of attention.
See, I'm not convinced it is generating them the most money, though, because didn't PC sales almost match console sales so far? This is one of the best-selling PC games of all time.
That's so...
you could be right about that. I'm not entirely sure.
It outsold Fallout 4 on Steam, and Fallout 4 was one of the highest-selling games on Steam at its launch. We're talking gangbusters sales just on Steam.
Yeah, but I don't know, so even that taken into account, 50% or slightly less than 50% of their sales are presumably these console players, right? And I feel like, from at least the developer's perspective, it also sucks because they're not really seeing your vision of the game, right? Like, they're seeing an extremely pared down, pared back, bare bones version of the game. At least that's what it seems like to me. Like, I saw like some of Digital Foundry's analyses on YouTube, and like just like for one, it's like absolutely amazing that it even runs on Xbox One, like base Xbox One. But just looking at it, it's like running at like sub 720p and like it's
Yeah.
just like sub 30, and it's just like, my God.
The fact that it runs
Yeah.
at all is like an insane feat. But I actually follow a YouTuber called Stop Skeletons from Fighting, and he likes to like one of his things is that he likes to look at Doom ports when they ported Doom to things that like really had no place running Doom, like the SNES, you know, how they're like super compromised
Yeah.
ports. And he's like super stoked to get his hands on a VCR Xbox
Oh
One
man.
and play through Cyberpunk on it with no patches.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a miserable experience.
Yeah, and that's what this guy's that's his whole shtick.
But yeah, like, I don't know. If I were to sum all this up in one word, it's just kind of disappointing to me because if this game came out when it was ready, like, it would have made, and obviously, like, right now it's making a big impact too because it's a very ambitious and largely successful game at what it tries to do. But like, if CD Projekt had just waited until it was truly well and ready, I feel like it could have been something even more special. But, I guess just to pivot a little off the negativity for a little bit, Mike, you've been playing Cyberpunk on PC. Do you want to give some of your impressions?
So first off, there's a lot of people who were like, this game was not what I expected. And I think a lot of people expected it to be like GTA, but Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of comparisons to GTA 5, which I just
It's not. It's The Witcher
Right,
3, but
but
Cyberpunk. Like,
that's
the
what
kind
I
of scale of
expected.
game we're
But
playing.
I will comment just on that because I think that's an important point. I feel like the game was almost marketed that way. It was
Yeah.
kind of marketed as Cyberpunk GTA when in reality, like, okay, so maybe if you're just some dude who saw the commercial who doesn't really follow big release much, you're gonna look at that and be like, hey, that's like a futuristic GTA. But for someone who knows what CD Projekt does and is kind of in tune with the game industry, like, we all knew that this wouldn't be a GTA clone. Like, this is
Right.
this is an RPG.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. A lot of
I
people
guess
are having
first
issues with its
question.
depth.
Yeah.
But honestly, I got what I expected. I expected a Cyberpunk game, and
Yeah.
so far 10 hours in, it's a Cyberpunk game.
You're only 10 hours in, huh?
Yeah, Extra Life. Prevent me from.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, we did awesome at Extra
Yeah,
Life. $1,000.
$1,000.
Wow. That's
course,
really
I think-
impressive.
75 of that is from me winning Among Us and Amma donating to me.
Yeah, I donated a few times to both of you, and I was just kind of bummed out. I ended up being really busy that weekend, so I couldn't participate too much. But it was really fun for the moments I was there for. Did you
Yeah,
ever
actually-
actually, Connor? Did you ever end up doing that Hades run?
Yeah, I did a few Hades runs. I did not win. I got to Hades twice
Okay.
and died, which sucks. Sucks so
Yeah.
bad.
I mean, that's the hardest part of the game, I think, Hades himself. Like, I've had countless runs where I get to Hades and just get stomped. But yeah. So back to Cyberpunk. Mike, I've heard that like one of the surprising aspects about this game is that like the combat is actually like shockingly good. Like, it feels like a legit first-person shooter. But like that's how well the mechanics are implemented. Do you agree with that?
It feels like a good first-person shooter, but at the same time, it also feels like I'm playing Borderlands.
You see,
Oh, I don't
that's
know if
what
I
I
like
thought
that.
too when I was watching it, and that actually attracted me because I kind of like
Yeah.
the shooting in Borderlands.
I
but
do
hate
like the
writing.
shooting.
The shooting in
nothing
Borderlands
feels like
is so much better than Fallout, and I was afraid it was going to play like Fallout.
And plus, no one feels like a bullet sponge. I like that.
Yeah.
Things
That's good.
die fast, even on normal, which I'm playing on. but
Uh,
some of the mechanics are clunky. Like driving's awful. I have not tried it on
Really?
controller, but on keyboard and mouse, it's just god awful. Like I feel like I'm driving a boat. Like it's not snappy. It's very, very delicate of a turning system at speed.
So you're 10 hours in, which might be kind of like early in the game, all things considered, but like one thing about this game that had so many people hyped for it before it came out was that it was like the RPG to end all RPGs, right? Like apparently entire like chunks of the game would be completely unplayable if you made a certain decision, or like if you did this, like it would open up like entire new levels that previously like other players wouldn't access. And like are you seeing that level of like insane choice in the game
I
yet?
mean, I have seen that one of the early quests, trying not to spoil it, but this is something that happens at the end of Act 1, and then you get a quest regarding it at the beginning of Act 2. And depending on what you do at the end of Act 1 for like sending a car to a certain place is how the quest plays out. So say if you send it to like a doctor, if the car goes to a doctor, you just get a package with a key to a motorcycle, and if you send it to like the family or whatever, you actually get to do a whole like quest sequence for them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you're kind of missing content then?
Yeah, you're missing you still get the same rewards, but you're just missing out on like a little bit of content.
Yeah, and at least before release, it like the previews I had read made it sound like this kind of stuff was all over the game. Like it truly feels like a choice-based game.
I like a game that lets you miss content.
I don't know.
That's a bravery you don't see often.
People are losing their hype for like the immersiveness of the game. I'm pretty immersed. I don't know. My level of immersion might be lower than others. Like it doesn't take much. But
you're easily pleased.
I'm easily pleased. But the NPCs do feel a little dead.
Well, yeah, I've seen like, a lot of complaints about AI, which I think is strange.
I mean, yeah.
Like people throwing grenades into a crowd of bystanders, and the bystanders like just duck in place or something.
I haven't seen that yet,
so
I believe it.
All those kind of complaints seem like standard like open world RPG complaints to me, which kinda is unfortunate to hear because like I think people were counting on this game kind of bucking those, but I don't know. Like by and large though, like it still seems like the impressions are positive, at least on PC.
So the good thing about
handle something.
The good thing about CDPR is that CDPR will hopefully fix everything they need to fix. Because they did it with The Witcher.
Oh yeah,
The Witcher
absolutely.
Was a disaster on launch, but they managed to make it into one of the best games of all time, or The Witcher 3 at least.
Yeah, I don't have any doubts in my mind that CD Projekt Red is going to polish this game into like a fine sheen, but like it's just weird that it's out in this state, you know? Like I think so. I don't know how closely you guys follow like Metacritic scores. That's something I sort of pay attention to just because I find it interesting. But like the PC version of the game has like a Metacritic of around 90, which automatically puts it into like some of the top games ever made, you know. But like the console Metacritic score is like below 50, which is just horrendous, you know. And it's fascinating to me that two versions of the same game can have such wildly different experiences just based off how poorly optimized one of the versions is.
Yeah, it's a disaster for cons. People are making a lot of comparisons with GTA Online, or just GTA in general, or Red Dead Redemption 2. And I have to disagree because Rockstar Games, their shooting mechanics are god awful. They might have great immersiveness and great stories,
Yeah,
but their gameplay
I
is
agree.
generally
Yeah.
awful. Like at
Yeah,
no
I agree
point
with that.
could I say that I was having a good time shooting things in Red Dead Redemption 2. That was not my highlight of the game. In fact, it felt like I was playing the same shooting mechanics from GTA 4 generations ago. So it's
Yeah.
people like to vaunt certain publishers above, and that also applies to CDPR. But I have faith that CDPR can actually fix the game. Maybe not on last gen consoles. Honestly, it might have been a smart business.
On last
just
gen consoles,
not release it.
it might be a lost cause, honestly, because there's only so much you can do. Like, I mean, well, here's the thing though. CD Projekt Red, like we say that about the last gen console versions, but they're also the company that got Witcher 3 running on Switch, which is to me also almost just as impressive of a technical feat.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
gonna be a
maybe
lot of
they'll get
optimization
Cyberpunk running.
patches.
Yeah, maybe they'll get Cyberpunk completely optimized for PS4 and Xbox One. Maybe they'll be like locked 720p 30 frames per second, but I can't really see, the base consoles doing better than that. Now, like maybe the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X will fare slightly better, but like this is a game that was clearly made with next generation technologies in mind. It's clearly a game to show off ray tracing, and it's clearly a game to show off, like SSD speeds, loading in areas in that seamless city. So, yeah, while I do feel like yes, they'll do their due diligence and optimize on last gen consoles, like this time around, I feel like there's only so much they can do just because how inherently next gen this game is.
Yeah. There's also like people are taking issue with mechanics not being there, which
Like
I
what?
haven't seen it yet. Like apparently there's an issue with the police where the police will just like teleport behind you.
Oh, that's really lame.
But
If it's real.
I mean I'm looking through the subreddit and it's all negativity. Like every single post is just them trashing CDPR, which honestly it's not the devs' fault. This is not an issue of the devs knew. This is a fault of the executives knew and told the devs to just throw it out anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good topic that maybe we should spend some time on. The executives at CD Projekt Red, not the developers. I think they really deserve quite a bit of criticism, right? I mean, ultimately, it's because of them that the game got pushed out in this state, and it's because of them that like we've unheard of like crunch conditions at CD Projekt Red as well.
Plus, the call to not show footage on console before launch was
Yeah,
really
that
scummy.
was sketch. That's when he knew it was going to be a disaster on consoles.
This is why we don't pre-order
Right.
games, kids.
I'm glad I pre-ordered it. I'm enjoying what I have so far on PC, but God, was it a mess?
Yeah, like that's pretty unheard of, right? Like they straight up told reviewers they weren't footage, right? Like at least from the old consoles.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that like the devs are getting trashed on when in general you should know that it's usually not the devs' fault that a game gets pushed out early. No developer wants to put out a buggy game ever.
Yeah.
It's usually an executive decision higher up on the tree.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but like we've had some insight into like the inner workings of CD Projekt Red due to some really good games journalists, and they had and apparently this is a common practice in the games industry, at least in the AAA space, but they had like some of their bonuses, like their bonus salaries tied to Metacritic score. So like apparently the devs were going to get a really big cut, like a really big bonus if the game scored 90 or higher on Metacritic. But, upon the release of the game, and the fact that it was getting trashed, at least the older console gen versions were getting trashed, the executives actually had to come out and revoke that condition. And so now the bonuses aren't tied to Metacritic score, but I guess they're going to be distributed based on some other metric. But
I think they're just distributing them because during development of Cyberpunk, apparently team leads would hand out like these coins with the Cyberpunk logo
these
on
tokens,
them.
yeah, I saw
These
that.
tokens, and that would be people who would get more money. Basically, like a reward system for doing well, I guess.
Which I don't know.
Makes
To me, that
sense.
sounds really weird and archaic. But apparently, after doing some research, apparently that's a pretty common thing in the AAA space. I don't know if it should be. That sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't know if I like that. Like giving your hard workers like little tokens that might turn into rewards later. It's just kind of strange.
Yeah, no, it's super scummy, especially because like I'm the guy who makes the gun models. The Metacritic score of this game has nothing to do with me. Like, so do I just have no shot at a bonus? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think like it's a very I think this is one of those things that also promote crunch, right? Because it's a very like team-based mentality, right? Like, yeah, you might be the guy that does the gun models, but like if this game does lower than 90, everyone's bonuses suffer, right? So I guess that's a motivator for everyone to put in that overtime and stuff like that, which is obviously something we need to address in this industry.
yeah, I am not a fan. I don't know. I don't like that whole token thing. Makes me think of the people who like lay $5 on the table for the waiter's tip or waitress's tip at a restaurant, and like every time you do something stupid, they take one away. Like, I hate that. That's
Actually
so
do
scummy.
that?
Like,
That's awful.
have you never heard of that? That's like a super
No.
common boomer thing. Is to like,
That's oh god.
and like it's not even like $5 is a particularly glamorous tip. Like, and that's just exactly what that
That
token
does
thing
sound.
kind of feels like to
To
me.
be fair, that is one of the most boomer things I've ever heard. So that
Oh, I
checks
can
out.
top that. Well, my grandpa wasn't a boomer. He was older than boomers, but he always made a big deal about tipping $1 because that was a lot of money. You know, when he was younger.
Oh well, back then maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they did it in like 2001.
I do have a legit criticism of Cyberpunk, and apparently a lot of people also have this. The life paths that they promised, they're like a 20-minute introduction. Like your origin is 20 minutes, and then there's a montage. Like that's it.
So your origin doesn't really like play a big part in the story.
It does because it says I picked the corpo origin, which means I was a corporate goon until they took everything from me. I'm just gonna straight up spoil the first 20 minutes of Cyberpunk here. So the corpo life path at least. I can't say for the other ones, but yeah, you literally start in like one of the big corporate towers, and you go to your director, and he's like, "Yeah, I want you to assassinate this other director." So you go to a bar, meet your friend Jackie Wells, and you're discussing it over some beers when agents from the company come in, seize all your assets, and turn off all your cybernetics. Like, that's the intro. You just literally lost everything.
Your cybernetics. Like, do you
Yeah,
have replies at this point?
They turn off all your company's cybernetics and everything. Like, they just basically end your life there.
Yeah.
And Jackie's like, this isn't over. And then you get a brief montage of them becoming mercenaries. That's the whole intro.
A montage.
Oh, yeah, it's literally a montage. I mean, I liked it, but it felt like there could have been more there. I could have had hours of me just doing crimes and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they made a big deal about these intros. Like what you just said kind of reminds me of the intros to like Dragon Age Origins. I don't know if you guys have ever played that game, but they're like 6 different intros to the game depending on like what race you pick and what character you pick and all that. Well, I don't know. They're not.
They're like an hour long.
Yeah. So like, but like this sounds kind of like that is what I'm getting at.
But depending on what life path you choose, it changes dialogue options. So since I'm a corpo, if I go to talk to like a corporate agent, I can like smooth talk them and see through their double speak or whatever.
Yeah, that's handy, probably.
I can easily convince corporate people to bend to my will, since I know what they're thinking. Whereas if I chose like Nomad or Street Kid, I would not know at all.
So there are three. Are there three in Origins? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about like whenever I play the game, I'd probably pick Corpo as well, just because I feel like that's an interesting perspective. Like you're already in the city, you're already like part of it, and then you sort of just take over from there. But I can see the appeal of like being a nomad, a guy like discovering or moving into the city for the first time and just experiencing it that way. Yeah, I don't know. Either Nomad or Corpo, I think, is what I'd pick.
There's also Street Kid.
Yeah, Street Kid. So yeah, I'm assuming that's the same. Like you start out in the city, but like in like the like slums or something like that, right?
Nah, Street Kid, you start out as like a gangbanger, I believe.
That's fun.
Oh, okay.
But like
I
once
think
you pretty much end up a gangbanger no matter what, though, it kind of seems like.
No, you don't end up like in a gang. You end up working. You end up just basically being a gun for hire. Just take
so
gigs
probably the most important question so far. Have you met Johnny Silverhand?
Oh yes, Keanu, the ghost of Keanu Reeves. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Keanu Reeves being in this game is kind of one of the most exciting things.
I absolutely disagree. I hate that Keanu Reeves is in this game.
You get to play as Keanu Reeves.
What? You can't
segment.
dislike Keanu Reeves, though.
I don't dislike Keanu Reeves. I just hate celebrities
being in video games in general.
He's not even like... The thing about Keanu Reeves is that he's a major character. He's like the biggest character in the game.
Yeah.
It's not like a cameo. It's not like he's there for 30 seconds and he's gone. He is literally in your head. That might be
a spoiler. I don't know. In general, I think I would agree with you, Connor, but like I'll make an exception for Keanu Reeves.
Wah. Like,
you know, more spoilers for Cyberpunk.
Sure, but like,
so I should to talk more about Johnny Silverhand. I actually need to get like into a small spoiler, but this I think has already been spoiled by reviews. So
sure, go.
So Johnny Silverhand's dead technically, and his mind was put on a chip that when you got like Fallout New Vegas melded with your head, so now you're slowly being taken over by Johnny Silverhand.
That's interesting.
So you'll just like Johnny Silverhand will just appear in your vision magically. Like he's not a physical character; he's a hallucination, really. Which I like the frame. I like the framing of like a plot driving character, literally just being a hallucination who's slowly taking over and erasing your gray matter. Like that's cool. That's a cool concept.
And I think I mentioned this on the show before, but like apparently Keanu Reeves was so like taken with his role in Cyberpunk that CD Projekt actually like doubled his time in the game or something like that. So I don't know. I think that's a cool like quirk of the game that I'll enjoy when I eventually play it.
It's not the immersive Red Dead Redemption 2 experience that everyone was expecting, but it's not a bad game.
I think that's like right. No, like obviously a good game, but like I think this game, one of its issues was that it became the subject of like obscene levels of hype. Like people were treating this game as like the second coming of Christ, and like no game can live up to that kind of expectation, I think.
No, I mean this game was hyped as much as, if not more, than No Man's Sky was, and yes.
Generally, anytime a game gets that hyped, it's gonna have backlash every time. I don't think there's a single game that has been hyped as much as Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky that has not had a hype backlash when people don't get their hands on what they expected. Not even The Witcher 3 had that much hype. Like, the hype happened after the game launched.
Yeah. No. Cyberpunk was a different beast. Like, I could probably count on one hand the times that I've seen hype like this in the games industry, which, I mean, it's good to be excited about things, but it's also good to keep your expectations a little in check. Especially, like, I feel like some of the warning signs were there, especially because, like, we never saw, like, extended gameplay, really, of the game.
We really didn't.
So, like, clearly there was... I clearly think that maybe this game could have lived up to the hype, like 100%, if, like, it came out maybe a year or two from now. That's possible.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like we're also, as, like, a gaming culture, we're more bug-averse than we used to be. Like, we're more irked by minor visual bugs, especially
that's true.
in
Like,
reviews
before we just kind of dealt with it, right?
Yeah, before, if there were, like, visual bugs or people, like, T-posing, we could look past that. But you even see it in reviews
we gave
where
Bethesda,
it's
like, a free pass for years, honestly.
Yeah, until Fallout 76 came out, and then bugs were suddenly no longer, like, relevant. It was almost overnight that we stopped, like, giving excuses for bugs. Which, like, honestly,
What happened was that we used to get, like, these insanely buggy games, and they were always these open world games, and be like, okay, this is just a product of an open world game because they're so much more complex than other video games. And then developers started putting out, like, bug-free open world games, and then we're like, wait a minute, it's just these developers that aren't doing the best job squashing these bugs, not the game genre itself. I think the gaming industry and the enthusiasts came to that conclusion years ago. And since then, we've kind of been harder on bugs, which is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure a good thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
This cooler barely fits in my PC.
I hadn't done measurements for this or anything. That's my RAM.
That's a ballsy choice.
There's a lot to be said about where people's, like, salt and hate will go to. Never throw it to devs, though.
No, not the people on the ground. It's always executive decisions.
Never, ever a developer's fault.
And even the executives, like the gamer vitriol, they don't deserve that. They deserve, maybe you're not their biggest fan, but they don't deserve
they don't
the wrath of the gamer.
Like,
yeah, to be fair, I don't think even my worst enemy deserves the wrath of the gamer. That's a fate I would wish on no man.
Like, there were death threats every time they've delayed that game.
And
like,
clearly
that's
every
insane.
single delay was necessary.
I mean,
yeah, no, those delays were definitely to try and get last gen running.
More delays were necessary.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been mad if they would have delayed it again. I would have memed it, but I wouldn't have been like...
Yeah, I get memey when people
death
delay
threats.
games, but yeah.
Delays are part of the game industry, and people got to realize when you make a game as large as, say, Cyberpunk or The Witcher or GTA or Red Dead, delays just happen.
Yeah.
The larger the game, the more code you have to scan through, and the more assets you have to scan through to make sure they're not buggy.
Yeah. And that's not an easy job. And it's not, people like to blame QA too, or say, like, did this game get any QA? And, like, yeah.
QA is hard.
Yeah, QA is hard for one thing. But also, like, odds are QA knew about these bugs, They're not... It's just...
You also have a dozen QA testers compared to millions of people playing the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's mass QA. That dozen QA testers can find a group of bugs, and they literally have a list of a step ladder of bugs, with minor bugs like visual bugs never getting fixed.
Yeah.
Until they absolutely have time to fix them.
Let's be absolutely clear here. These companies are 100% aware of these bugs, but here's what happens. the executives or whoever's in charge of budgeting marketing, they do a cost analysis and be like, okay, we have to release the game in this time frame to optimize profits, right? And when that comes, whether the game's finished or not, like it's coming out, like by and large, unless like one studio I think that bucks that rule that I've heard of is Naughty Dog, because apparently like they have so much cachet with Sony now, they can just say their game's like not ready and Sony just gives them more time. But like most AAA studios, like that's how that works, like, which is unfortunate, like, but in a capitalist driven society, it makes sense that that's the way things are.
Don't even get me started on capitalism, Ahmed.
Yeah. That's a whole critique on the world at large. It is ironic that a Cyberpunk game falls victim to the pitfalls of AAA game dev.
It's coincidental. Not
It's
ironic.
it's coincidental. It's a very big winky dink that a Cyberpunk game about fighting corporations falls victim to corporate greed.
Yeah. But CDPR kind of has
Maybe
a lot
the
of
crunch
pressure.
was built
Aren't
into
they-
the game to make that sort of commentary. What about that, huh?
Isn't CDPR like one of the biggest companies in? Aren't they Polish?
They are Polish.
Yes.
So there's, devil's advocate. Those guys are under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I feel like it's obvious the devs at CDPR are hurting, because this was a big, like, they were very prestigious before this, and Cyberpunk releasing like this, it hurt their egos more than anything else.
It's a bad look,
It is a very bad look. So I honestly think by next year, quote me on this, December 16th, 2021, the game will be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
I mean,
the
that's
thing.
not an unreasonable thing to say. Like I tend to agree with you, but I think that's an interesting point you made about their ego and the status of the company. Like before Cyberpunk released, people were starting to look at CD Projekt Red as another Rockstar, like a developer on that caliber, right? And like, the quality of their games, I'm sure, is comparable to Rockstar. But like when Rockstar puts out a GTA or a Red Dead 2, yeah, it has some bugs and glitches, but like nothing game breaking like a Bethesda game or Cyberpunk. Like by and large, Rockstar has that that level of polish on their games. And the fact that CD Projekt wasn't able to do that in this time frame, definitely people are going to be making that comparison less.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
You guys have any other thoughts on Cyberpunk?
I still think I'm going to get it. I mean, I've seen a lot of complaints and all, but I'm going to have a 3080. Maybe I'll turn RTX off, DLSS on. I still think it's going to be a super fun game. I just, it's got issues. I still think it looks fun.
It's got issues.
I'm not going to get it now. I'm going to wait.
I'm going to comment. I'm absolutely going to get this game as well, but I'm going to get it in a year or so when the issues are largely gone.
Yeah, I'm probably going to wait for a sale because I was not on the hype wagon for this or anything, so it's not going to bother me at all to wait.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if that annoys me.
Mike, you got any last comments for Cyberpunk?
I'm definitely gonna finish the game, no matter how salty Reddit is about it, which at this point is just normal.
That's just Reddit.
If Reddit isn't salty about a game, then it's obviously Game of the Year.
No, they were very salty about Breath of the Wild.
That too. They're just salty. Like,
were they really?
I've never not seen a subreddit for a game.
What did they want instead of Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild without durability.
Unanimous.
Like they'll find one issue to complain about in Farm Karma, and that's it. Like Reddit used to be like the place I'd go to find information about a game. Now it's just all salt.
Yeah, I still go on Reddit pretty frequently, but I don't value it.
Like, I'm not even talking about the general purpose subreddits. Even the game subreddits is just full of negativity.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Ugh.
It's like this game robbed you of your entire livelihood and stole your family. It's just a game.
Yeah.
You paid $60 for a game. That's a lot, but at the same time, chill.
Yeah, like the
Gotta
toxic
chill.
like gamer culture is like one of the things that puts me off the most about all of this. But yeah, that's definitely something that's got to be worked on.
Gamer
yeah,
culture is embarrassing. It almost makes it like hard to get people into the hobby at this point.
It really does, like there's so much stigma attached to it now because of all the toxicity. It sucks. But that being said, you guys want to talk about what you've been playing?
I've already talked about what I've been playing.
Yeah.
This whole episode was me talking about what I've been playing.
Yeah, that's tough because I have pretty much been playing Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah.
Extra Life went well. Talked about that. That's pretty much it though for me. Hades, played a lot of Hades. I've already talked about that on the show.
Yeah, there was a lot of at least from when I was watching, there was a lot of Among Us, there was some Hades, some Noita, some League of Legends.
Yeah.
All in all, pretty entertaining games to watch.
I played some Overwatch at some point. There's some Valorant. I shoved an entire banana in my mouth. That's clipped.
That's pretty badass.
Oh yeah. Something.
I think maybe they're tucked in the back here. I'm missing a bunch of screws.
Oops.
Oh,
That
I see them.
sucks.
Yep, they're tucked in the back. Whew.
Like,
So Connor, what are you going to break in your new PC with?
I transported my entire Steam library to my new hard drive last night, so I really haven't decided yet. Maybe some Noita, because I did actually have FPS drops in Noita related to my processor. I need to do CPU-heavy games because I don't actually have a new graphics card yet.
Oh, right. Yeah, your 3080 is coming later.
Yeah, so I'm thinking stuff like Noita is pretty CPU-heavy. I could do a long run in Noita, get some of those crazy wands going. Maybe some Microsoft Flight Simulator, although I still don't know that my 1070 is up to snuff for that either. But,
oh wait, I forgot. Yeah. I did have an audio problem with Cyberpunk. So I figured out the solution to it. The solution is to turn down your audio quality in Windows settings. Anything over 48 kilohertz it doesn't like.
Okay.
Like that's the solution. It fixed my crackling. Apparently the game just doesn't run above anything other than DVD quality audio.
Yeah, which is the Windows default, right?
Yeah. I have mine turned up all the way, which never causes issues except for Cyberpunk.
Oh, neat. My motherboard
seems like there's a lot of that with that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of like weird inconsistencies in how it runs, but I mean, I played what other buggy game did I play at launch? No, during the 360 era, I never patched games, so I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have a 360 connected to the internet. What was I gonna do? Patch the game?
You're a bug veteran.
If a bug happened, a bug happened. I just dealt with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we all were in that space, like back when like N64, GameCube, Xbox, PS2, when those consoles were prevalent, like
patches weren't
a bug. Yeah, patches weren't,
happened.
and it should be noted, bugs were way rarer, I think, in that era.
But
like, at the same time, bugs there can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
It should be noted, however, that all of those consoles did connect to the internet.
Yeah, they just didn't patch. I think a lot of new gamers that have come into the fold in the last 10 years they're kind of spoiled by the fact that games can be patched.
Yeah, they're spoiled by the fact that their games work.
Yeah, they're very spoiled by the fact that they can buy a game off a shelf and reasonably expect it to work. I mean, back in the day when Sonic 06 launched, it got what? One patch? Two patches? Because patching wasn't prevalent. And the game was a buggy mess. And depending on your console, it was worse. You had the PS3 version, be prepared for frame drops.
Yeah, I cut out for a little bit there, but what I was going to say was, for someone who's as indoctrinated as I was, like, that game was nirvana to me.
Yeah, it's
but yeah, but like, by and large, I feel like older games had really good sort of they didn't have too many game breaking bugs.
I mean, we're all thinking of like the good games from back then, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say
we got those rose tinted goggles on. Like back in my day, Super Mario 64 was good, and that's about all we got. We don't remember the Clay Fighters or whatever. We remember like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but do we remember Wand of Gamelon?
I remember Wand of Gamelon. I could never forget.
You could never forget it. There's always that case with nostalgia. Like back then, games weren't buggy. Well, like, maybe you only remember the games that weren't buggy.
Yeah.
We tend to remember good memories rather than bad memories. People conveniently erased the Battlefield 4 debacle when that game released cross-gen, and it was a buggy disaster on previous gen.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was a absolute disaster. The game came out. Would be lucky to get one match in before it hard crashed my console. And this is on a PS3. Patches upon patches later, I went back and played on the PS3 again. 2 matches, hard crash console. Never actually fixed it. Next gen version, however, play that thing for 6-7 hours, not a single crash in sight.
Wow.
Like it's a whole difference. People never think about it, but you're always gonna have that cross-gen weirdness with games. True. Every time. This is not going to be a thing that's going to go away. This is not just a CDPR problem. It happened last gen as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's the fact that you are now developing instead of just developing for 3 platforms now. At the time last gen, it was 4. I think people were still putting out Wii ports.
Well,
you're now developing for double
this generation's even more like intense, because let's think here. We've got developers developing for the following platforms: Xbox One S, Xbox One X, PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, and PC. That's 8.
Yeah. That's 8 platforms that you're developing for at the same time, and you have to make sure it runs perfectly on all of them. Some things like the older gens are going to fall through the cracks. That's the case of everything that happens.
That sounds nightmarish.
Yeah,
you have 8 consoles.
As someone who has only ever targeted 3 platforms, and that was a nightmare. Ugh. Of course, these people aren't working alone, but still.
Right.
It's a lot of armchair developers who exist only to like say I could do that better and then actually not do anything better. Yeah. But if you think you could do it better, I encourage you to get out there and start making games.
Yeah.
You can be the change you want.
Kind of pivoting off this topic, one of the games I played over the past week was Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, I know I claimed to have beaten that game a couple weeks ago, and that is true, so I'm playing New Game Plus now. But Insomniac, being the wizards they are, have already added a ray trace performance mode to the game, so I'm playing New Game Plus on that, and it is the perfect way to play the game. And I'm just kind of here in awe of how quickly Insomniac has optimized this game, and the fact that they're able to achieve like 1440p ray tracing 60 FPS on a launch PS5 title really bodes well for their output this generation, I think.
I just think it's incredible that they listened to me recommending that on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, this all happened because Connor suggested that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, obviously. Like, how else would they have gotten that idea?
But yeah, like, so I said a few episodes ago when I got my PS5, I played through Spider-Man Miles Morales at 30 FPS just because I wanted to experience ray tracing real bad, because that was my first encounter with ray tracing, honestly. So that was good. The game looked gorgeous, but now I've got 60 frames per second, ray tracing as well. Obviously, the ray tracing isn't as excellent as it is in like the fidelity mode, but it's still really good. And I can't even really perceive the difference in resolution. So I think this is the perfect sort of sweet spot. But the unfortunate thing is, like, I don't think many devs will go for this. I think Insomniac's just being special here.
Yeah, I definitely feel like
I would love to be
feeling it
wrong.
out, kinda.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's really striking to me, like, a Spider-Man game needs to be 60 FPS. Like, swinging through the city at 60 FPS just feels so incredible.
Yeah.
Like, even swinging, like, they nailed the swinging in Spider-Man so hard. Even swinging at 30 FPS, like, felt really good. Like, it looked cool. But like, 60 is just absolutely perfect. It's so good. So yeah, I'm enjoying replaying Spider-Man Miles Morales with those fancy graphics and frame rate, and I'm really enjoying it. I've also been playing Destiny 2, like I mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
And they've implemented a 120 FPS mode for PvP, so the game shifts from 60 FPS to 120 once you enter like PvP, and it's really, really good. Like, I think I mentioned that last week as well, but I want to reiterate how buttery smooth it is, and just how bad I feel for people playing on PS4 and Xbox One, because like cross play and like cross matchmaking is a thing. So
that's not fair.
We've got people playing Crucible at 120 FPS, killing people playing at 30 FPS.
Yeah.
So that's just an absolute massacre. Like, I think I won like 7 games in a row last night, which I don't do. That's like not a thing I usually do. And I was like, it's definitely because I'm up against like people on PS4.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, a poor craftsman blames his tools, but you are at an advantage for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm literally playing at 4 times the frame rate that they are, which is
resolution is super unfair in shooters too. Like, if you have a higher resolution, you can see farther.
True, yeah. But I don't know frame rate. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to choose frame rate every time because I'm not good at shooters to begin with, so the seeing them farther away thing, that's not a shot I was going to make to begin with, so.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a little weird, you know, like, I'm on my PlayStation and playing either Spider-Man, and literally everyone else on my friends list, it just says Cyberpunk 2077, Cyberpunk 2077. Everyone's playing that. And I just see that, and I'm like, okay, I get it. If you were really hyped for this game and you needed to play it day one, but like, you're not playing the best version of this game. No. Which again, like, it sucks that like a lot of people's perception of this game, like in the future, will not be like the true vision for this game, right? Because like, even if you're playing Cyberpunk on PS5 now, you're playing like the PS4 version running on PS5.
Yeah, which is still probably better than on
like
the PS4. But...
Right, it is, right? Like, you get 60 FPS on PS5, but like on Series X, just because of the way Microsoft implemented backwards compatibility, you're actually getting like a Series X version, an optimized Series X version of Cyberpunk, right? Like, the way Sony implemented backwards compatibility, like, you have to make an actual like next gen patch or next gen version of the game to use next gen features, which kind of sucks. But
see, that's interesting to me because I did see one of my favorite developers. Well, I don't play the game that much. That's why I say favorite developer, not favorite game. Astroneer. released a patch recently, and it's not a PS5 version, but it is a setting in the menu that they only want PS5 people to turn on because it enhances the graphics and tries to use some of that horsepower.
I mentioned on our next gen episode, in the PS5 OS, you have the ability to like system-wide toggle for if you want a game to use like performance mode or resolution mode. Maybe that's what they're referring to.
No, they're for sure referring to an option in their own game, which is a PS4 game that will improve.
Oh, okay.
The visuals if it's running on a PS5.
Okay, but I think the point here to take away is that Microsoft just nailed the next gen or like backwards compatibility to a degree that Sony doesn't even come close, and it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
For PlayStation players, yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been into this week. And aside from that, I've just mostly been reading about Cyberpunk, just because like this is such a monumental game, such a huge release. What you got there, Connor? Is that your graphics card?
Yep, this is the old GTX 1070. Just trying to figure out which panels I need to take off the back here so that it'll fit.
Yeah.
This is the last component, other than the power supply, which is going to be
I feel like you made good progress over the course of this episode, right? We've got your cooling in there, you've got your RAM in there, you've got your CPU in there.
Yep. Nice. I did mess up on the CPU. I put it in such that I couldn't fit the RAM in, and then I had to take it out and wash all the thermal paste off, which I was thinking about doing anyway, because the company I bought from, OG10K, they have like a deal with Kingpin Cooling, which I guess is supposed to be the best coolant on the market, or not coolant, but thermal paste. And so I decided, hey, I kind of wanted to use that anyway, and washed it off and replaced it.
Yeah.
What was I doing? Oh, right.
All right. I think that is going to do it for us this week as we close out while we watch Connor furiously unscrew his case.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Thank you guys.
I am not going to finish this on the episode, so.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're not. Unless you try and speedrun it and end up breaking it. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on all podcast services you use, as well as YouTube. Helps us out a lot. Please click the link in the description of this podcast to join our Discord. And thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yep. See you guys next week.
See you next time. Bye.